Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. I'm really excited you can join us. So today we're going to be talking about something that is extremely important to all of us, which is communication. And we're going to talk a lot about how communication could dramatically help your sales, help your revenue, amongst many other things. So for this discussion, I brought in one of the foremost experts on this topic, Robert Hartline. Now, Robert went from selling cell phones from the trunk of his car in college in Tennessee. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the city, but he'll tell me later. Building a chain of 61 wireless stores called Absolute Wireless, along with Callproof, a software company, Dang It Repair, a phone repair business with 8 locations, and Hytch, a carpooling service, which launched in September 2007. Robert is a serial entrepreneur who built his business to where today generates over $100 million in total revenue. Now, Robert lives with his wife and 2 young boys half the year in Nashville and the other half in Costa Rica, which probably doesn't suck. We'll talk more about that as well. Robert enjoys traveling, learning new technology, surfing, which would be awesome. I'd love to learn that. Off-roading, skiing, and lots of travel. Robert's newest company, Shift Your Time, coaches entrepreneurs how to move internal communication from email to phone to an app called Marco Polo, saving business leaders 40 hours a month. We're going to talk more about this tech and what it can do for you. Robert, welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, Ty, man. Thanks for having me aboard. And that's Murfreesboro, Tennessee. What you struggled with, and lots of people say it lots of different ways. Murfreesboro, if you're from the South, but all is well. Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm excited you could be here, and I had like some weird beeping that just started, which it could be my standing desk, and hopefully it will stop. It will be a good, so that's not too annoying to everybody. So you're generating a ton of revenue. What are some of your best revenue growth strategies for this upcoming year?
Well, I learned a lot of things over the last several years. I went to I'm in EO. I don't know if you guys are familiar with EO, Entrepreneur Organization. I went to an event they had called NERV a few years ago, and got taught a lot of things about acquiring other businesses. And I'm a student of the game, learning how to lead and how to grow businesses for myself. And it's a constant state of learning. But right now, what I have discovered over the last 2 years with having rapid growth, I mean, we went from about 12 million in sales to 100 million in sales in a span of about 3 years. And some of the key things that I noticed during that transition is the focus on communication. It is 80% of your day. If you're a business leader, entrepreneur, 80% of your day is in email, and it's in phone calls and face-to-face visits, all that stuff. And it takes an abnormal amount of time. And so once you kind of conquer how to communicate, man, the sky's the limit, my friend.
That's awesome. Is that how so I noticed not only did your business really grow, but you guys reduced calls, emails, like you reduced workload by like 70%. So how exactly did you accomplish that?
Well, it's interesting. A few years ago, I had a employee of mine who told me about this app called Marco Polo. And I'm usually one of the types of people that it's funny, I adopt a lot slower than I used to. When you get older, you're stuck with your old ways. But I started using this app to communicate with my internal team. And literally, I was talking to everybody and their brother on Marco Polo to communicate. I just love it. If you haven't seen or played with Marco Polo, it's a video walkie-talkie app. And it makes it extremely fast and easy to record a video to share with your team any moment you need to. Whether you're talking to one or one to many, the app allows you to do that. And what we do every day is get people inspired through conversation to take action. And the best way and the most efficient way to do this would be face-to-face. But if you can't be face-to-face, the second best thing is by far an app like this to communicate. A lot of people say, well, FaceTime does that. Well, it can do that. The disadvantage to live video is you have to be at a place where not only do you have good internet, good camera, but my schedule has to align with yours. And are you at the mental space to have a conversation? And the beauty of Marco Polo is it gives you the ability to time shift. And that means, I have everything turned off right now. My phone is not going to ring, nothing, but I have people communicating in Marco Polo to me. And when I have a break, I can go and digest and listen and communicate with people at my schedule. And, a lot of people don't realize, they go, well, I get more done with really talking to people and having conversations. Listen, you can't focus on a project. You can't even think without your phone disrupting your world. And, when your phone rings, it's kind of like a slot machine. We want to go and, oh, who's calling me? What do they want? And we make these micro decisions to answer that. And what a lot of us don't realize is that distraction, no matter how focused you were on a project, the average person takes 25 minutes to get realigned and refocused on that project. So imagine for a moment, you're getting 20 disruptions every single day. It leaves no time for thought. It's all about action. And it's misaligned action because we make bad decisions when we don't have time to think about those decisions. So for me, it's been game changing because I'm able to talk to many people on my team. We have about 400 people throughout 4 different organizations. And it's the way I train people. It's the way I build relationships with people, whether it's from hiring to training to coaching to having tough discussions with people. It's a way to get things done for me.
Yeah, and it sounds very effective because, like you say, that we're in a world where this is changing a lot, right? I mean, there's so many distractions from so many devices, and that's one of my goals now is I get the usage time, my screen time from Apple, and so my new goal is to reduce it every single week. I don't know why. It just gives me some kind of challenge, but it's so true. As a matter of fact, I love airplane mode.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
But then the problem is that all this stuff happens and you don't know about it. So it sounds like you found a solution. We'll talk a little bit more about that. How do you think the way that people are communicating is changing, in 2017 and 18 with more technologies, more chat platforms? All these things are happening. I mean, how are you seeing that communication itself is changing as a result of all these distractions and all these new methods of communication?
I think, I've watched. So when I started selling phones door to door, I was trying to sell phones to people who did not have phones. This is 1994. And I was selling the concept that you should get a phone for safety and security. And over the years, when smartphones came out, I would try to sell a smartphone. People would go, oh, I don't need a smartphone. I mean, I don't even think I have a phone in a store that isn't a smartphone. I mean, that's what everyone is using. But as time has progressed, our anticipation that someone respond to us right away has increased. And so, and now what's happened is multi-channel. So there's lots of different ways to reach us. And, from Slack to Facebook Messenger to Twitter, I mean, there's 1,000. I mean, it feels like there's 1,000 different ways to reach out and get our tentacles out there. But there's something that's personal that happens when I see your face and I have a conversation with your face. And you can't beat that. A lot of people are, vast majority of their time is spent in email. An email is really no different than a caveman writing on a wall. It's just words that will paint a picture. But if I'm writing on a cave wall, you may look at that image and go and think one thing and another person think another thing. Well, it's no different than email. I could send an email to 10 people and have 3 different responses. How do you communicate to an audience with people who are going to misinterpret what you say? With words in your video in your face, it's pretty tough to and misinterpret. You can see my volume, you can see my intensity. You can see how important a topic is when I'm talking about it. If I'm giving you an instruction and you work for me and I want to get a task accomplished, I'm going to add color to the task, so give you the reason why I'm going to do that. Well, if I was going to do that in an email, how long would it take you to write? And then I can also, by my language, tell you how important the task is. Is the task something needs to happen right away? Or am I giving you color to the task to give you the impression that, whenever you have a moment, you can get it completed? All those things you can do in video, which you just can't do in all these other channels.
Yeah, and it's, I laughed when you said that about the cell phone because I think my first cell phone was 1992. And my dad had to co-sign because at that point they said it was harder to get than a house because they did not know how people were going to use it. And I'll never forget my parents going, look, we're going to do this because like you're responsible to have jobs and pay your bills and stuff. But look, I don't see where anybody's ever going to need to carry a phone around with them. This
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
make sense. And I still tell my parents, I'm like, hey, you remember back when? It makes me laugh, but you're so right. There's so many things where, they say that 80% of communication is body language. And then when you look further into that, like only 10% is the actual words. Like
Yeah.
the rest of it all has to do with body language and tonality and these other things. So it's so true. And I don't think there's anybody listening who hasn't had problems where people misinterpreted their tone based on emails, based on written word. And when you're talking about Facebook Messenger, when you're talking about all of these other formats, like you said, you're still dealing with that written word. You're still dealing with those same problems. So what are some of the biggest trends you're seeing in the communication space in general?
Well, there's an interesting trend what you mentioned a moment ago about the airplane mode. There's a new app in the marketplace called Thrive app, and it's a more gentle way to put your phone in airplane mode. What it does is basically it'll lock down your phone from phone calls, but auto text people who call you. And you can set up parameters to say, all right, I want my wife to reach me and I want my VP of sales to reach me, but that's it. Like those, if you're not one of those two people, then my phone will not ring. So you have a lot of people. And one of the number one trends that's even more than that is people are not answering their phone like they used to because the number of robocalls that happen, they say that something like 43% of all calls are robocalls. And these guys are really getting good. They're sticking phone numbers that look like your local area code. And you're like, oh, this must be a friend of mine. It's a local area code. And then you find yourself talking to a robot. That is an awful experience. And I even teach my team because we still make calls as a part of our marketing strategy. And so what that means is you got to call twice. You have to call twice. So if you're a marketer out there and you're calling someone and they don't answer, call right back. You'll find that a large majority of people will answer that second call. Robocalls don't call you twice most of the time. Hopefully there's not a robo dialer out there going, oh God, I got the new trick. I'm going to double the calls. But that's what I've seen. The value of phone calls is starting to diminish as a method to reach people.
Which is very true because we're all the same. And I remember years ago where this switch happened, where all of a sudden my cell phone started ringing and it was nobody that I knew. And as you just said, I do not answer my phone anymore. When you just told me about that app, I thought that's awesome. My wife gets through. Nobody else gets through. Nobody. Send my mom a text. Send everybody a text like that. I mean, I would send everybody because I don't even answer. It's just an annoyance that people even call anymore because I send everyone to voicemail. And then I think if it's somebody I know, they're going to leave a voicemail and I'll know. Otherwise, like you said, there's just no way to even recognize. So you're so spot on. What are some of the biggest game changers that you think are going to improve and shift the way we communicate? Which I have the Marco Polo app and I've kind of been messing around with that. And that's obviously one of the big ones. What do you think in general are the biggest game changers with how communication is going to change?
Well, I think in terms of the game changer aspect, it's going to take people getting sick and tired of what they're doing today. And when you think about it, I want you to think for a moment. I don't know how far is your commute from.
Mine's 20 minutes.
20 minutes. All right. Let's just talk about 20 minutes for a moment. You're going to get in your car and you drive for 20 minutes to go sit in an office and to get on a computer, which you have a computer at your house, right? Now you could say, well, you have your team there to work with, and yeah, you could be efficient with those people, but one of the things I do is coach entrepreneurs that, listen, your team needs your absence to get stuff done. They tend to lean on you when anything breaks, right? And you becomes this crutch. And if you are not there, they actually solve their own pain points and not looking for you to solve every single little thing. But a lot of people go stand outside and look at a major interstate and look at all these minions getting in their cars, driving into an office in which they have tons of distractions. And people are sick. When I say sick, they're unhealthy and unfit because they don't have enough time in the day to exercise because they are driving into an office because their boss has been doing that since the 70s. And, when you think about it, the traditional office space and why knowledge workers started going to an office is because the computer took an entire floor. And the typewriters were $2,000. And they had all the business machines. Well, we've moved away from that. And the fastest growing segment of the business is telecommunication, people working from home. There's study after study that's proven it's more healthy for individuals. More productivity is happening as a result of moving to that model. You still got a large, vast number of businesses that are still thinking the old way, but guess what? Those guys are retiring. And the people under them are going to create some major shifts to allow people to do business differently and a lot more productive, but enhancing their whole world as well.
That's very true. I mean, we grew to probably 3 million virtually, and even now most of half our team works virtually. Most of them aren't in offices. I think that is a large part of the future, and communication that makes that easier to be able to control makes a ton of sense. Now you're doing some cool things with reconnecting with unresponsive prospects. So what are you guys doing that's successful there?
So we do, we've been using Marco Polo in a sales capacity for a while. And there is a ton of different strategies to reconnect with someone and build a relationship. I always tell people, one of the things I always do is always talk about Marco Polo, especially in a new relationship. I cannot describe how many people I have introduced this app to that have thanked me for enhancing their relationship with their spouse. And I've heard that over and over because it creates a sense of closeness that didn't once there. I don't like talking on the phone. I don't talk to my wife hardly on the phone. It's facts and figures, organizing and whatnot. If we ever talk on the phone, that's rare that we talk on the phone because all of our communication is with the app and doing a video, talking about what we're working on, sharing special moments that happen with our kids. But once you move away from the phone call as your key conversation with your key contacts, with our friends or family, it changes the game. In fact, I even have a system where if someone wants to spend time with me, I just ask that they download Marco Polo and tell me what they want. And you need some help? I'll help you. Let's do a Marco together. And I can do it at my own convenience and when I'm ready to have those conversations.
Yeah. I love it. And, I downloaded the app and already recognized there were already people there that are using the app. It was just super easy to download, super easy to navigate, to connect. I mean, it's just a matter of a handful of yeses and you're off to the races. So I hadn't thought about it using on the personal side. So I like that. What are you, can you give me some specifics? Like, how are they using Marco Polo to connect with prospects in general?
Oh, yeah.
Can you give me an idea how that works?
Yeah, well, let me talk about something that's real in all of our worlds. It's meetings. We spend a lot of time in meetings. And meetings are typically, you have two types of meetings. You have the update meeting. Hey, this is what I'm working on. And then the other meeting is, I got an issue. Let's talk about it. Have you ever noticed that when you're taking care of an issue, let's say you have a problem you cannot solve, and you're thinking about it during an hour time, you just don't have a real solution. And 2 days later, you're in the shower, you're shampooing your hair, and you all of a sudden, aha, this idea just presents itself. The reason ideas get solved this way is they require space. If you and I had an issue together that we were trying to solve, let's say it's an issue with one of our companies, and we're having a discussion, we could come up with some ideas in the hour, but you're going to come up with a lot more ideas in a few days. But we feel the intensity to solve it right now. And so one of the things I do in Marco Polo is you can create a Marco Polo group. Just like you would go out and do an email and write into 2-line, you can write your name and your accountant's name and you put these names in here. It's easy to do in Marco. You do it on the fly. And you would start a Marco Polo and he would basically say, hey, Ty, listen, I've added my accountant here. We got an issue with the bill that we just got. This isn't what we agreed on. I'd like us to figure out how we can, we probably owe this bill, but there's probably a way that we can get this bill renegotiated. So let's talk about some ideas. Now, I follow a process called traction, and when you're solving an issue, you identify the issue. It's called IDS: identify, discuss, and solve. Well, if you do it in Marco Polo, I could say, listen, I would like this to be solved by Friday, and I'd like to hear some ideas. And by Friday, I'm going to have a decision. I like to have a couple options to choose from. So let's talk about it. Well, the accountant gets on and says, well, I never got the contract. And so, it's part of the agreement that I'm supposed to agree on these contracts. So if I don't see these things in the front end, then we're going to have issues like this. So what you discover is the issue is not the issue. Someone didn't follow the process. And so with having Marco Polo and sharing those ideas like that, instead of having a meeting to maybe solve it, no meeting. I discussed it in Marco Polo, and we're gonna solve it on Friday. But we don't got to schedule time together. We don't have to do any of that. And Marco Polo allows you to do that. But from a sales aspect, I love groups for making good introductions. Hey, man, I want to introduce you to Ty. He's the man with the plan. He can totally solve your issue that we had on our last mastermind meeting. Ty, why don't you go ahead and tell a little bit what you do? You do a group like that. I mean, before, when you do it in the email, you're all the time, this is all that happens with an email introduction. You go to the next step, which is scheduling time with someone. Well, you can skip that step. We can solve and work it out in a Marco just as well, and it's so impactful. Especially if you have someone with energy. I mean, if you don't have a lot of energy, video is going to be a challenge for you. But it takes practice. As long as you take some practice, I've been doing it so long, I probably have thousands of hours in Marco Polos. But it's a great way to do those introductions, and a great way to eliminate those meetings.
Yeah, and there's so many ideas going through my head. 2 days ago, I engaged with somebody to help us with a service that they offer. And it was interesting because he started to move to Facebook audio, Facebook Messenger audio. I've never used it before and do not like it at all because it doesn't let me, like if I make a mistake, it automatically sends it as soon as it's done. And maybe there's a way to stop that. But it was awkward. The whole thing was very awkward. And the interesting thing was in the end, I didn't know price. So I asked him, I said, hey, give me an idea of investment. He told me the investment. I'm like, it's a little too much for us right now. Probably something we're going to do in 3 months. That was the message I sent back. Crickets, no message back, right? So
no feedback.
No feedback. So there's a million ways this could be interpreted, right? Like my mind is going 100 different ways because I can't see him. There's no body language. It's just audio. And so it was really uncomfortable. And I think about this and I think, man, that would have been so easy to go, hey, man, let's just get on Marco Polo. If he doesn't use it, have him get on it. And then we could have easily done that face to face and it would have been so much more comfortable. And he's trying to make a $20,000 sale. Why would you try to do a $20,000 sale for audio or text? It makes no sense when he could have just used something like this and it would have had a lot more meaning to me and been better, I think, for the relationship. Whereas now it's awkward because of the audio.
Yeah, WhatsApp is big in the audio. That's how you communicate in WhatsApp, and that's how I communicate with a few people in my world through audio. And the challenge with the audio is if I play audio, we are so easily distracted. We end up getting on a computer while we're trying to listen. So I'm reading and I'm listening. You can't do both. You can't do both. When you play a video, you're going to look at the person. There's something to look at, something that draw your eye and your attention, and then you pay attention when you look at video versus something.
And what's else is interesting about that is that in his audio, there was a lot of background noise, which then makes me think, whoa, what's going on, right? But video, it's almost like I'm a little in his world. So it helps me even be connected at a deeper level. And I just keep thinking about this one case today, and there's a million applications, but I'm thinking it would have been cool because I still would have heard the same background, but I'd be like, oh, what's going on? He'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm at, kid's soccer game. And then I feel like I'm, our bond grows deeper because I'm like in his world at that point.
Oh, absolutely. And I do a ton of traveling. And I love to do Marco Polos with my team where I'm in different places and seeing different things because they can go, when I see they do it, when I do a Marco, they're like looking, where is he at? You know, where's Walder at? Where is he traveling in? And it adds context. You know, if I am talking to you on the phone and I sound agitated, I'm a jerk. But if I'm doing a Marco Polo and I'm walking and I'm in the airport and there's people all around, I understand the agitation. And it makes sense. Everybody needs a little context. So absolutely, you seeing what's happening versus hearing is a
big difference, because in that case, he sounds distracted in the audio, which I didn't take it this way, but it could have been perceived as disrespectful. If I think about it, like, I don't care. I'm that kind of guy. But I could see I'd be disrespectful because it's like, dude, you're trying to make a $20,000 sale. Like, give me 5 minutes of your attention. That's all that I'm asking for. But like you said, in a world where he's at a kid's soccer game, I'm immediately like, oh, dude, I get it. I go to a lot of kids' soccer games. I completely understand.
Yeah, and it boils down to this. When you don't use all your senses to communicate, people are left to interpret the missing senses.
Right.
And so you paint all these pictures of somebody that don't exist. They really don't. But we imagine them, and that's it. It's the reality is what happens.
Yeah.
Is make it the reality.
Right. That's the way our brains work. They just fill in holes, and we don't even know how many of the holes of what we see and all these senses are being filled in. That's interesting. So how are you guys using this and using communication and Marco Polo to mine inbound calls? Or are you doing anything with brand new incoming leads with this?
So there's several different strategies to do that. What I don't usually I would not use Marco Polo as a cold calling strategy, but I'll tell you how it would work. So it's a rapidly growing network, and they're not a social. I don't call them a social network, but they kind of are. But they're really not. Their mission is to have people communicate and have closer bonds and relationships. Lots of people are using it for therapy because personal relationships with people are super important to who we are as humans. The most natural thing we can do is speaks face to face. This is the second best way to do that. And with that being said, one strategy you could do it with it's gotten so popular, you'd be really surprised at the number of people in your world are on Marco Polo. If you're in Utah, 1 out of 10 people have Marco Polo. It's a very rapidly growing network. Now, why Utah? Big families, right? And they want to stay in close contact with each other. But one way you could do it is in Marco Polo, you can go in there and add a phone number, and it will basically let you know if that person is in Marco Polo. So if you find that they're in Marco Polo, send them a message. If they're not in Marco Polo, it will send them a link. But I wouldn't do that with a cold prospect. Usually, like let's say for a moment you have people that are in real estate. By far, I believe that real estate is probably the best way, the best vertical to use Marco Polo, because you're looking for a house, you're dealing with a husband and a wife, so you got two decision makers that need to be in front, that you need to be in front of. And if you had the entire relationship from the title company to an attorney to the home inspector, all in Marco Polo, the experience for the client is going to be amazing. And that relationship is going to get super tight versus a bunch of phone tag.
It's interesting because I was just looking at the app, and if I look distracted, the others can't see because when you're talking, they're only seeing you. But first of all, I was really shocked because a lot of my friends show up. So a lot of them came up right away. They were using it. And you said that about Utah. One of my sales guys is in Utah, and sure enough, he's one of the guys that's using the app. So it's just interesting because I'm already thinking about all the different ways that we'll be able to use this.
I got a quick tip. And this is how you could use this. You got an email drip to an audience, right? So let's say for a moment you send out an email, you got a lead magnet, and you capture their information. In that auto drip, you can send them a link to a group. Okay? Now, why is this important? If they click that link, they can go to a Marco Polo group. And when they land in that group, could be a video message. Hey, thanks for joining shiftyourtime.com. Listen, I know you got a lot of questions about how this course would help you. Please leave your name and number, and I'd love to chat with you. Boom, they hit the start button on the app. Hey, this is George. I'm from Utah. How's it going? I'm just kind of curious. I saw this email, someone talking about it. Tell me more. Now you have them in Marco. You can talk to them privately. And it's a great way to, I think this is a better live chat on your website than any other tool on the planet. Because what happens in live chat is you got to make sure you got someone on the live chat to answer those live chats. And if they're not answering that thing, then you lose that, right? Well, if you got them into Marco, now you got that lead sitting in there, and you can use your passion and your drive to start that sales conversation with them. And if you do it right, you're going to make it solid. You know, one of the things that tends to happen with salespeople is you talk too fast, you don't cover the facts, you don't listen, you don't do a lot of the things in order to close a sale. Well, in Marco Polo, one of the tips I teach is put your phone in airplane mode when you're going to respond to someone. I want to make that response to you. If that is a $20,000 deal that I want to close with Ty, I'm going to make sure that I know Ty in depth. So when I respond to your question, I know who Ty is. And I know that I can serve you and I can provide an immense amount of value. And if I do that in Marco Polo, and I do, let's say I record it once, it wasn't great. Hey, this is a $20,000 deal. Why would I not delete it and try again? You know, it's still not great. What if I took a whole hour to do the most amazing using sight and sound? I'm showing video. I'm doing my face. It's really easy to change your camera. So if I'm talking to you, I can click the front-facing camera, and let's say I go on my computer and show exactly what I want to say. So I'm giving them a movie. What would you rather do? Read about Star Wars or watch the movie? And that's what you get a prospect and give a prospect. And it's a great way to use in your sales strategy. And once you get that right video, you turn off the airplane mode, bam, that goes out perfectly well.
Yeah, you're basically using story, which we all know is super effective, to sell. And it's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant way to do that. And just so you know, again, my wheels are turning, so it's almost hard to focus on what to ask you next, because every time you talk, I'm like, oh, that's great, that's great. And I'm taking notes. That's something I think we'll try right away, because we're looking at what's the newest way and best ways to start using cutting-edge technology to communicate in ways that people think is cool, that helps them and saves time. And this is perfect to be able to send them into a group and then say, hey, look, here's a message. Here's our story. Here's how we can help you. And then being able to give them a chance to respond, and then us actually be replying through video versus email, which so much of our sales communication takes place. It's a really interesting strategy. Really love it. So what are some of the biggest communication mistakes you're seeing people make right now?
When it comes to, basically I built this company for the mistake that I had. And that was, I got excited about the platform. I started using it. About 2 months later, I'm sitting in an ops meeting and I'm getting a lot of really frustrated team members. They're getting emails, they're getting texts, they're getting phone calls. Now they got Marco Polo, and then there's Slack, and there's all these things. And it occurred to me that I didn't set the right expectations. You really have to build a boundary around your internal communication. And when someone comes aboard in your organization, you really need to say, listen, this is why we use Marco Polo, and this is what it's for. This is what it's not for. It's not for having very difficult conversations. And the reason that is if Ty, let's say you were on my sales team and you're not selling very well. If I did a Marco Polo with you and say, Ty, man, dude, what's up? Your sales stink, right? I'm not going to say that, and I'm not going to do that. But let's say I did that. Your energy level is going to go from here, no matter where you were in your day, to be down. Now, that conversation is best for a phone call. If I do a phone call, I can say how awesome you are in a few sentences, because I give you 7 praises for every reprimand. And I follow this 1 Minute Manager Ken Blanchard thing. But I'm going to hit you with some hard stuff, man. Your sales are down, and we need to improve this. What do you think we can do? With conversation, you get feedback, and I can lift you back up. Because if you hit somebody with damaging information to their ego, they're going to spend their day in a low point, and they're not going to improve. And if you give someone negative feedback in Marco Polo, it doesn't work. So you have to build the boundaries and explain when you email. Like a phone call, when you call me, the business is on fire. Joey's quitting. He's the best salesperson. That's 911. That's not a Marco Polo, right? So you have to kind of explain this. In most organizations, they assume, and they have people doing lots of different channels. And so what you got to do is, whoa. We don't email each other. Now, if we got a report you need to send, that's best in email. I tell my ops team, don't send me an email of a report without a story. So when they're going to send out a report on how we did last month, I have a Marco Polo. I can watch it. Here's what our results were. These stores are not getting it done. We need to figure out what's going on here. When you have a story along with an Excel spreadsheet, I got too much data as it is. Don't give me data. Tell me what it says. And it says it in story, and you just got to get someone to articulate what that means. So the point of it is you got to make sure your team understands how to communicate, when and where and how it works. And if you do that and follow that strategy, you're going to have happier people.
Which is amazing. Slack is something that we added about a year ago. And it's crazy because we never had a messenger. And now it's like 20,000 plus messages a month. And, there's times where I was just at this conference and it's just boom, going off constantly. And the people next to me keep looking at my phone because my phone's going off. And I try to ignore it, but you can't ignore it. Your brain won't let you do that because then there's messages there. And I like it because I like to know when my sales team is making sales, they celebrate, and I like that aspect. But but in order to do that, I have to be in the channel and get all the other junk that I don't want to know about any of the other junk. I just like to celebrate their sales with them.
Yes.
So it creates all these problems as a result of that, which what you're saying completely solves that problem.
Oh yeah. And I get a lot of people, I use it for our sales teams for their updates. I don't do sales calls anymore. It's sales updates. So I got my sales team, they do an update inside the channel. And one interesting fact about Marco Polo that a lot of people discover is, how hard it is to lie into Marco Polo? Subconsciously, it's impossible because you're looking at yourself when you're recording video, and subconsciously you cannot lie to yourself.
That's interesting.
Weird. It's a super weird benefit. And so when salespeople listen, it's about accountability. You do what you say. You do what you say. That's what I expect. You should either at the end of the day, you had activity or you had sales. And sometimes you have both, which is a great day, but you should not have no activity and no sales. And when you articulate in Marco Polo, I am going to do this today. By God, people do it. And it's the sense of accountability that happens with using an app like that adds tremendous value with sales management, because really, a lot of it has to do as well with inspiring people and salespeople. Imagine for a moment, you got a salesperson and the first call for the day is an absolute jerk that shot him down. He is going to be in a state of low ego, low energy, and his desire to overcome that is super hard. And if you have a close relationship in Marco, you can sense that. You can sense low energy. When someone's given their update and they don't have the spark, I'm going to get it right in there. Like, dude, tell me what's up. I may even call him. Is that urgent? Because I want to change your mindset from low energy, don't think you're winning, and I want to pick you up. And everybody deserves to be picked up every now and then. And it means something to be able to, as a sales leader, to sense their energy so you can help them. And a lot of it is sensing it through their body language that they need to be picked up. And everybody has different challenges before they even show up at your office. Sometimes giving them the ability to share something tough that's going on in their world, you can help them along.
Robert, a great Great time with you today, man. This has been really eye-opening, and I have a whole list of ideas here. And like you said, I am still in the hour meeting. I haven't had time to go for the 2 days to think about all the uses of this yet. And as we kind of get ready to wrap up, what are some parting thoughts of how Marco Polo can help with communication, or just general tips of what people should be focusing on right now to improve the communication, therefore improve the sales and reduce the workload as you've been able to successfully do?
Yeah, primarily, if you haven't download it and just try it with a few people. Don't make some of the mistakes I did with trying to get everybody on it without having a game plan. But try it with a few close people, and try to really practice the art of saying less words in Marco Polo, because you'll tend to ramble. It's the number one problem in Marco Polo. You're going to tend to ramble. You'll tend to not look at the camera. You'll get more meaning and more impact by looking at the camera. Here, I'm looking at the camera. It changes the dynamic of our conversation when I'm looking at you versus looking at a screen, right? There's just little tips, and certainly the app is free. Like, go download it. Use it right now. Use it with a few people and get accustomed to it. If you want formal help, I can certainly help formally. I have a free video on YouTube that you can check out. It's tips and tricks of Marco Polo. And it's an easy 30-minute going through all the functions, how to add a group, how to create a group message, and kind of how to manage some of that. But it's one of those things you got to practice to make it work for you. If you want formal training or take the course, we certainly have a course there too. But I will tell you, it would add a lot of value in your world, and you're going to start seeing that your team is much more closer to you and will like and enjoy your company better when you allow them the space to think and communicate at their own schedule as well.
Where can everybody go? The App Store?
They can go to the App Store and download it, Marco Polo, and my website is shiftyourtime.com. And if you're interested, I can certainly help you and your organization get on internal communication with that tool.
So everybody, thanks for tuning in today. You know, when I brought Robert in, I wanted to really talk about communication in general, how it's changing, the platforms, all these new things that are out there. But the problem is that even as I was getting ready and researching it, I started to realize all the problems that are there with these current forms of communication. We all know email's dying. Anybody that studies open rates on that, you already know that. But where's it moving? These other platforms like Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, they all have these similar problems where you can't really connect with the person that you're communicating with. And again, not Robert and I's opinion. If you just do any research of communication in general and how much of communication has to do with body language and with the things that you cannot control through text and cannot control through these audio formats, you'll understand the problem that Marco Polo solves. And again, so many great ideas today that Robert threw out. I've got a list, a lot of different ways we're going to use them. First thing I did, download the app, saw a bunch of people I already know using it, and now I'm able to go to those people and go, hey, I see you're using this. How are you using it? And what are some ideas you have in using it that we could use it? And it's cool because I know my salesman, Lane, I know he's going to be like, dude, this has got a lot of uses because he's already had time to probably process how this can work. So whether it be in your personal life, your business life, it's a free app. Grab the app, download it, see what happens. And I'm not sure if they're cost incurred or not, but I was able to get it, use it, do everything at no cost.
It's totally free.
That's right.
Totally free.
So it's totally free. So get it, check it out. See, I might even be on there. A lot of other people that you may know are probably there as well. So make sure you go to the App Store. Make sure you download Marco Polo. You can just type in Marco and it auto-populates, is what happened with me. And I'm going to put the link for shiftyourtime.com on there as well. Look, you don't like it, you don't have to use it, but check it out because it's really pretty cool. And there's a lot of things in your personal and business life I think it could do for you. I'm going to test it out, and I'll give everybody some feedback. So again, Robert, thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Hey, Ty, thanks again.
All right, thanks everybody. Make sure you visit the App Store and get the Marco Polo app. And also make sure if you have any issues, go to shiftyourtime.com and they'll help you get set up. Thanks everybody. Have a great day.